Okay. Oh my god, I'm so excited to talk about this now. Dialogue slash one-liners.
So I think real quick, one thing we should establish is the dialogue kind of sucks in these movies, but it's got some good one-liners.
I was laughing so hard during, especially during the 1989 one, because the dialogue and like the one-liners are just so ridiculous. Like, it's pretty typical canon schlock. Like, it's so corny and not very nuanced.
Yeah.
Just very cliched. But I will give the 1989 one this: they do get the point across.
Yeah.
There's no overuse of like exposition. Like, you know who the villains are and what their goals are. You know who the hero is and what his goal is. So,
Yeah.
and one thing I laughed at one point, the bad guy has to explain what the Yakuza is to his cronies.
And he has like a PowerPoint presentation prepared too, right? Like he's showing him pictures while he's talking about what the Yakuza are.
He literally has to tell them what the Yakuza is, and they're the mob. Oh my god, how do they not know what the... It's so stupid. The dialogue itself, I didn't think was amazing, but the delivery of the lines was so funny, and not for the right reasons. Like, there was one part, I think this is the hardest I laughed at in this movie. There was this board meeting with the villains. They're discussing whether they're going to go to a meeting. The camera zooms in on Yaron Krave's face, and just something about the way he says "I'm not" just made me burst out laughing. I think because it was just so over dramatic, like just the zoom and like the way he says it. I was just like, oh my god, this feels like parody. It's so bad.
I was just about to bring up the main villain, Lady Tanaka's got some pretty good lines.
Or is she the secondary villain? Wait, because you also whatever.
Because I think she's supposed to be the main one.
Because Yaron Krave is kind of the main villain, but anyway, there are some other ones I wrote down. I wrote down a few of Dolph's lines. At one point, Dolph Lundgren tortures a guy on a stretcher and says, "I don't want to stretch this out." That's so bad. That's like something Roger Moore would have said in one of his movies.
I like the "Who sent you, Batman?"
Yeah, that was a good one too. This came out the same year as the '89 Batman movie too. There's like one part where a guy shouts, "Go ahead and kill us," when Lady Tanaka's like, it's like in a restaurant, I think, and his face, he looks like he's taking a shit when he says that. The acting, oh my god, the acting in the '89 one, it was just so bad.
So bad. I like the line.
It was so funny. It was like it was the bad acting that just kind of makes me love bad acting sometimes. Yeah. You know?
I like the Lady Tanaka line, "We are Yakuza. When your ancestors were shepherds still screwing sheep on the Mediterranean coast, ours were the crime lords of Asia."
Yep, that was a good one too. The villains looked like they were having some fun with just chewing the scenery in this movie. What little scenery there was. At one point, like, this woman asked Dolph Lundgren, "How long do you think someone can live after you've cut out their heart?" And he dramatically pulls her towards him and says, "A long time." It makes me kind of wish Stallone was in this movie. I feel like that would have been funny.
Another good Punisher line. This was also during the scene where he's getting stretched on the stretcher. And he's like pretending like he's giving up for a second. And he calls them over. He's like, "Wait, I've got something to say." And then he just rips the cuffs off and goes, "Sayonara."
Oh, yeah, I remember that. It was, yeah, I mean, they were pretty bad lines for the most part. At one point, your own Krabbe says, "There's a limit to revenge," and Dolph Lundgren says, "I guess I haven't reached it yet." Well, yeah, I mean, as far as one-liners go, the 1991 might be a competitor here, so. But dialogue, definitely not.
Dialogue, it just loses. It's like bottom of the barrel.
Okay, so the 2004 one, it doesn't really have many snappy quips in it from what I remember. And the dialogue itself was okay. I mean, there weren't too many that stood out as egregious. There was one part where Will Patton's talking about karma. I don't know what the hell that was. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't think I do.
It was towards the beginning of the movie.
See, oh, is it the "we just made your bail" line? Okay, because that's the only one that I'm finding right now that has karma in it.
What was he saying? If I wanted to kill you, I would have left you in jail where we have friends, and in some way that I would describe as deeply pornographic. You would have been killed, but you're a small piece of shit, and I don't want the karma of your death on my soul. You know, I think that was it. Yeah, I think that was it. Now that I think about it, that's probably it.
I do like the Punisher's line when he's torturing the one dude with the torch.
I think I know what you're talking about.
He's like, 2,000 degrees, Mick. Enough to turn steel into butter. It won't hurt at first. It's too hot, you see. The flame sears the nerve endings shut, killing them. You'll go into shock, and all you'll feel is cold. Isn't science fun, Mickey?
Yeah, I had that written down. Not the whole thing, but I just had "Isn't science fun," Mickey, written down. Because he's like torturing the guy. That scene was kind of reminding me of the scene in Lethal Weapon where Riggs was getting tortured.
Oh, yeah.
It looked kind of like that. One guy plays video games and says, "I'm the most amazing person in the world." Sounds like something Boris would have said in GoldenEye.
Yeah.
I am invincible! And also Mickey, after being tortured by Frank, he says, "You are not a nice person." So the 2004 one, there's not that many standouts, but I'll give them this. They keep it simple and to the point. There's not like an overabundance of exposition.
Yeah.
You basically know who people are and what they want. And also the movie, a lot of the information is just told visually, which, you know, fair enough.
It is a visual medium.
Yeah. One that I laughed at. John Travolta, after killing two people, he's asked where they were. He says one of them was wrapped up in something, and one of them had to catch a train. I wonder what he's talking about. Jesus. Okay, Warzone is a little more interesting, because it has a lot of really goofy dialogue.
It does.
Especially from the villains.
I like, one of the first things we get is this guy going inside this house, and he's like, "Keep your nose clean." The guy responds, "Sure, Pops," and then immediately snorts cocaine.
There's like no subtlety to any of it. I will give him this, though. There's hardly any exposition.
Yeah.
It's like they took show, don't tell, maybe a little too literally. They maybe do a little bit too much showing. You know.
But there are some good one-liners throughout it, though.
Towards the beginning, one guy calls the cops Krispy Kreme motherfuckers.
I also like the "see you in hell. If I see you anywhere near hell, I'll kick your ass out."
Okay.
There's also when Looney Bin Jim is hitting the Punisher in the kidneys, and he just starts talking about, like, blood in the urine, an early indicator of kidney failure.
What? Another thing is the villain Jigsaw, because he's got his face all fucked up.
Yeah.
He keeps getting mad because he sees his face like in mirrors. He like says, "Just when I think I'm okay, I see my reflection somewhere." And then Looney Bin Jim just goes and like smashes all the mirrors so he doesn't have to look at them. They were definitely an interesting pair, those two.
They were.
During like a meeting, they're talking to this guy with like, I think it was like a Russian accent.
The Russian was so terrible in this movie.
How did this Russian accent compare to some of the other ones?
Well, it's worse than anything in James Bond. It's pretty bad.
What about the Rambo movies?
I'd say it's a little bit worse than in Rambo 3.
Oh, so this might be the worst Russian accent on the podcast, then.
I think it is. I wrote down in my notes, where was it? Wow, this Russian is awful.
And the Italian accents were even worse.
Did they go so hard into the Italian-American accents? It's so bad.
Oh my god, like I wrote down about the 2004 one. I said it's like these feel like characters that would be in like Scarface or something. This one, it feels like these are like characters from like a mafia parody.
Yeah, no, they're ridiculous.
Like Chico Marx has a more convincing Italian accent than any of these guys. It's ridiculous. But speaking of, okay, sorry, we got off track. The Russian accents, the reason I brought that up, there was like a scene where the main bad guys were talking to him. They're talking to these guys with terrible Russian accents in their terrible Italian accents. And at one point, I think it was Jigsaw, he says, "We're not Transylvania."
That's right.
Yeah,
we don't speak vampire.
I'm gonna see if I can try. Okay, we're not Transylvania anymore. We don't talk vampire. The guy says like, "Oh, you asshole, we're Russian, not like." Oh my god, it's so stupid. In a good way though. I was laughing. You know this piece of shit? X piece of shit. At one point, Looney Bin Jim is like attacking Punisher with an axe. And you know what I'm about to mention, right?
I think so.
He says, "I asked you a question." And then not long afterwards, he says, "I'll have to axe it again." Surprisingly, the Punisher himself didn't have as many one-liners. He was pretty quiet.
Not really.
But he does.
He's got the
pretty good one at the end.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that one.
He says to Jigsaw, "Let me put you out of my misery," and then lights him on fire. And then says, "This is just the beginning." And no joke, the villain in Moonraker says something very similar to that, to Roger
That's
Moore.
pretty good.
He says, "At least I'll have the pleasure of putting you out of my misery." It's just so good. And the last line, I don't think anything compares to the last line of the movie. Do you know what I'm about to mention?
Maybe.
So the ending of the movie is the Punisher. He saves this guy from a mugger. He like kills the mugger, shoots him in the head, and then it fades to black. And right before the credits, you hear the guy say,
"Oh, yes, I remember."
You hear the guy say, "Oh god, now I got brains splatter all over me." It's just, I mean, the line itself is funny on the surface, but just the way he says it, he only sounds slightly annoyed by it.
Yeah.
That's the last line of the movie, too. I love it. Okay, what do we have to sift through here? Okay,
This is a hard category.
I almost want to give it to Warzone.
I'm thinking because it's got acceptable dialogue, but then really good, like, one-liners.
It's the best of both worlds, really. It has the
Yeah.
goofy one-liners, and then it has some more serious lines. I'm kind of thinking of splitting this into two, though. So that the 2004 one wins dialogue, and Warzone wins one-liners.
Yeah, I think that would make sense.
You want to do that?
To split those, yeah. Poor 1989 Punisher not getting any points.
It might win the next one, actually, now that I think about it. Pacing / editing. The 1989 one, I'll give them this. They introduce all the key characters really fast.
Yeah, the movie moves really fast, but it also means that there's points where you're just like, what the hell is going on?
It feels like 10 or 20 minutes got cut out of the movie. Which is what you would expect from canon.
Yeah. When the Yakuza first show up in that boat and they like kill off the Coast Guard and then all of the mobsters, I had zero idea what was happening. It was moving so fast.
It doesn't flow from scene to scene. It's just, I mean, but this is the company that made Superman 4, so like, which is probably the worst edited movie we've done on the podcast.
Yeah.
This is maybe the only other contender now I think about it, but I mean, this one, the plot makes a little bit more sense. It's a little more coherent than Superman 4, although granted, it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
As far as pacing goes, it's the shortest of the three movies.
Yeah.
And it's really fast, so it has that going for it. Like, a lot of canon movies, it's just super obvious that they cut stuff out. And just the result, the pacing, it's way too fast. You barely have time to process what's going on.
Yeah.
But it ends quickly, so there's that. Now, the 2004 one, it was weird.
Yeah, there's actually something that I don't know if this would go into editing, because it's more so sound editing.
We could include it if you want, I guess.
Because the sound editing in this one sucked, and it might be the worst one that we've done on the podcast. Because the dialogue was so quiet, and all of the guns and explosions were so loud.
I didn't notice. I think part of why I didn't notice that as much this time is I was watching on Netflix, and it had subtitles, so I could tell what they were saying at least. But yeah,
I had to keep changing the volume on my speakers so that it didn't blow them out whenever the action started.
But yeah, that's been a problem with a lot of movies on this podcast.
Yeah, but this one was especially bad. I didn't know it was happening for like the first half hour.
The 2004 one also had weird scene transitions that felt jarring.
Yeah.
Like, the way it was structured was weird, because, like, there were certain scenes that, like, didn't really flow from one to the next. It felt like things were just happening. And then there were scenes that didn't really advance plot or character.
Yeah.
Which I guess fits into the story again. But, like, one part, it just goes from roommates arguing to Frank torturing a dude, and it just doesn't feel natural at all.
No, it
just doesn't work. Like, it's weird. I guess the action scenes were edited pretty well, though, so there's that.
Yeah.
But, Warzone is also weird. Although I think the editing choices were more stylistic choices than incompetence. There were parts where it would do slow motion during the action.
Yeah, and I have a note that just says someone liked The Matrix.
Yeah. Someone liked 300. It's not as bad as 300, but yeah, The Matrix is an apt comparison. There's like a lot of fast editing, and maybe a little too much. Parts of it were kind of hard to watch.
Yeah.
Also, like, scenes would end really quick and then just go to the next thing. It was weird. It kind of flows and it kind of doesn't, so it's a little half and half. I don't think any of these movies have great editing, but as far as pacing goes, I think Warzone wins.
Yeah, it's better than the 04 because 04 is just a bit long in the tooth.
It's a little too slow. It didn't need to be 2 hours. And then the 1989 one is
it's
too
a bit
fast.
psychotic, the 1989 one's pace.
The 1989 one feels like a sugar rush or something. It's ridiculous. But with Warzone, it's kind of in between. You know, it gets in and gets out. It takes its time on a few things, but not too much to bog it down.
Yeah.
And there's enough action to keep it from getting boring, so...
So point for Warzone.
Camera work.
Oh boy.
The 1989 one looks like a canon movie. And what I mean by that is not a lot of style or flair to the shots. It looks like a TV movie.
Yeah.
A lot of canon movies look like TV movies. This one is no exception. And then whenever the movie tries to do something...
It doesn't really succeed.
It just comes across as ludicrous, and you can't take it seriously. Like, again, the really over-the-top camera zooms during dramatic scenes. It's just awful. Especially during the parts where Dolph Lundgren is flashing back. It's just...
Or when he's getting tortured.
He's like just yelling right into the camera. Oh my god, it's bad. The 2004 one, it's shot pretty well.
Yeah.
There's wide shots, there's close shots. The camera moves around, but not too much. I thought the lighting was good, and also the color grading was pretty good too.
Yeah, that is one thing that, thinking back, I definitely appreciated that it had a good color grading, especially with Warzone.
Yeah. Like, the 2004 one, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it's nothing distracting either.
Yeah.
It did kind of make me wonder, though, like, what a Zack Snyder Punisher movie would be like.
Oh, no.
Oh,
no, I don't want that.
Is that what he was trying to do with Batman v Superman? He was trying to make Batman into the Punisher? Okay. So, Warzone, I liked some of what they did here. It actually did
it was very stylized.
It looks very comic booky and colorful.
Yeah.
It looks the most like a comic book of the three movies. Like, you could very easily transfer it to that medium. Like, it doesn't overuse the shaky cam.
I will say I wasn't the biggest fan. Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of the color grading in this one. But I think other than that the camera work was pretty good. Not highly stylized.
Again, I thought the color grading kind of helped give it like a comic book kind of feel to it. It would use these like weird color schemes at some points. At least it was trying to do stylistic stuff.
Yeah.
The other two weren't quite. And it's shot pretty well. You know, the action scenes look pretty good. I think Warzone wins this one.
I think overall I agree with you on that one.
Basically, this was just an excuse to have Warzone win the entire thing. Like, it's not even close. My favorite category, the punishments.
The punishments.
Or in other words, which one made the best use of its R rating? So the 1989 one, it's pretty tame for a R, but there's some good stuff here and there.
Yeah, in the intro, there's the one dude that he hangs with, like, the wire coming from the roof. That part was pretty fun.
Yeah, like, one thing I liked is the 1989 one, it just starts right off with him blowing up a building.
Yeah.
With a bunch of mobsters in it. Like, they waste no time getting to the action here.
And then most of the people that he kills is just through guns or knives, but there is one that kind of sticks out. It's just after the torture scene, he hooks up this other guy to the stretcher.
Yeah.
He asks him, like, questions, he gets information out of him, then he just turns it on and leaves.
Yeah. He like uses a crossbow to kill some guys, which that was
Oh, yeah.
interesting. And a lot of machine gun, most of it's machine gun kills and like knife kills, which that was like the one time you saw anything close to the Punisher logo was the knife had like a skull on it.
Yeah.
But a lot of the kills, they just kind of feel like stuff you'd see in any 80s action movie, so...
Yeah. It was a little weird seeing him just snap that one woman's neck, though.
That's right. There's one part where he burns himself with a knife that he was welding, which...
Yeah. He's trying to cauterize a wound that he got.
I was gonna say, it's like something out of a fucking Rambo movie. I think Rambo even does that in one of the movies.
Yeah, the third one with the gunpowder.
I think there's like one where he like... Or no, wait, no, sorry. I was thinking of the second one where like they're torturing Rambo with his own knife.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. And then the ending is ridiculous because it turns into a martial arts movie.
He like throws some dude onto a sword display and just impales him.
Because he's in this like...
Yeah, it was like a dojo. It's like a martial arts training place on the top of a skyscraper.
He's like taking out on top of a skyscraper. He's just taking out the Yakuza during this. And honestly, I was enjoying that part of the movie more than anything I saw in the Mortal Kombat movies. Like, it was honestly kind of like... It was honestly kind of great. The 89 one... It was enjoyable as far as the kills, but maybe not the greatest, so... The 2004 one, you just start off with his family getting massacred at a family reunion, which...
He does have one fun kill during this scene when he shoots the propane tank by his gas grill and blows the dude up that was hiding behind it.
That's right, yeah. They try to kill him during this, too, because they're, like, on a dock, and there's, like, gasoline lit by fire. And he gets blown off the dock, but survives. Again, kind of like Darkman. It's just... Now, as for the Punisher's kills in this one, it was mostly shooting. I mean...
Yeah.
There were a few good ones here and there, but a lot of it was
killed
just
the
kind
one
of
dude...
generic stuff you get out of any vigilante movie.
He killed the one dude with the guitar using a ballistic knife, which was kind of fun.
Yeah. Oh, is that when he stabs the dude in the chin and you, like, see the knife through his mouth?
Not that one. He's a bit farther away, but, like, he shoots the knife blade at the guy.
Because I was gonna say, the one where the knife goes through, like, the chin. The movie needed more, like, brutal stuff like that. Like, if they went all, like, Rambo Last Blood with this one, it should have done something like that.
Yeah.
I do like the way he kills John Travolta in this.
It's so ridiculous.
He drags him behind a car, and then this like causes like a chain reaction of like exploding cars in a parking lot, and then the explosion, like, it's in the shape of his skull logo.
It's so ridiculous.
I think the big standout, though, is there was this fight scene. Do you know what I'm about to mention?
I don't know if I know this one, because I've got a couple other ones, but...
Okay, so there was a scene in the movie where he gets attacked in his apartment by Waldo if he was a Bond henchman.
Yes. Yeah, that was one of them. I think they called him the Russian.
But he's like wearing like a Waldo shirt, like, and it was
just a red and white striped shirt.
It was so funny. He like tries killing him by throwing a grenade at him, but then he hides in a bathtub and survives.
Yeah.
That's like some Crystal Skull logic right there. That fight scene was the most entertaining part of the movie, because one thing that's funny is like Frank's like getting his ass kicked the whole time, and the guy is like so ridiculously strong that he's like ripping through walls and doors. Oh my god, it's so ridiculous.
And then the other two that I remember,
he like throws a boiling pot at him, and then it burns the dude's face really badly, and he like falls down the stairs and that kills him. I
Mm.
wish the movie had more ridiculous stuff like
Yeah.
that in it. I would have enjoyed it a lot more because the thing with the 2004 one is it's trying to be so serious.
Yeah.
And then this scene happens, and it's just the most ridiculous shit. It's, oh my god.
So the other two that I remember, this one's not entirely a punishment, but it's when he's torturing the guy at the beginning of the movie.
The only other one I remembered was he wasn't even one of his kills. I remember John Travolta killing his wife. That's the only other.
Throwing her in front of the train.
That I don't think that was supposed to be funny, but it was such overkill that I kind of...
But there was one towards the end of the movie that I thought was pretty funny. John Travolta and his henchmen get back to their house, and one of the henchmen goes to pull out champagne from a bucket of ice, but he attached a grenade to it, so it blew them all up when he took out the champagne.
I forgot about that one. That's funny. That actually does feel like a kill that'd be in one of the Death Wish movies, now that I think about it. Because he kills a guy with an exploding soccer ball in the 5th one. And a poisoned cannoli or something. It's so stupid. Did you have anything else for the 2004 one?
I think those were all.
It had a few standouts, but overall, I was like, they could have done better. Now, Warzone, on the other hand, oh wow.
Warzone's got quite a few.
For one thing, there's a lot of blood and guts, so
yeah,
they wanted this to be an R-rated movie, and it earns that real easily. I mean, the first scene of the movie, he shoots a bunch of guys.
Well,
from a chandelier. He's hanging from a chandelier, shooting a bunch of guys.
Because when he cuts the lights, pulls out a red flare, drops down, decapitates an old man, kills some other old woman by stabbing her, and then shoots everyone while hanging from the chandelier. It is insane.
It's so no holds barred. Yeah, and that's not even the best one either. Because this isn't technically a kill because he survives, but he shoves Jigsaw into...
It's a glass recycling plant or something.
This is what turns him into Jigsaw, because it fucks up his face. But I was thinking, how on earth would you survive that? Oh my god, But this movie has everything. There's impalings, there's beheadings, there's people getting shot from chandeliers. At one point, he punches a dude in the face so hard that it explodes. The other two barely felt like R-rated movies at points, and this one,
This one earned it.
This is the most violent movie we've done since Rambo 4.
And then when he kills Jigsaw, because he stabs him all the way through with a spear, picks him up and throws him onto a pile of burning coals.
Yeah, there's that too. He shoots a guy in the face and it explodes. It's ridiculous. I mean, if you just want really over the top violent action, this movie delivers on that. That's for sure. I think Warzone wins this.
Yeah, no, this one's no contest. It's Warzone.
It's much more memorable and gory, and more satisfying too. The deaths were more satisfying. Yeah. I wish Ray Stevenson was in the 2004 Punisher movie, just because I feel like those villains deserved it the most.
Yeah,
out of any of them in these. Overall enjoyment. Okay, I don't know if you want to start with these.
Yeah, so the 1989 one, that's the hardest I've laughed at a movie in a while. It definitely wasn't intentional, but I had a lot of fun watching that one.
I know.
Just because it was so insane and so weird.
So I'd seen the 1989 one before. And I remembered it being kind of enjoyable just because, it was Dolph Lundgren as the Punisher and it was a canon movie. And so I knew I was going to get rewatching it, I knew it was gonna be fun, but oh my god, rewatching it, it was so funny. Like, it was bad, but it was like the best kind of just bad,
Yeah.
terrible action movie because the acting's horrible, the directing's terrible. Like,
The dialogue's atrocious, the acting's bad.
like you said, this was one of the funniest movies we've done on the podcast. Like, so honestly, that might have been the one that was the most fun of these,
Yeah.
even though it was by all accounts the worst one. I just got to a point in that movie I couldn't stop laughing. Like,
I know. Like I was in tears during that final scene with the mobster's kid, just because it was so weird and just out there and bad.
Everything was so corny and stupid, and I just like, oh my god.
And then one thing I didn't mention about that scene,
It has a lot of novelty for me, just because it's you have Dolph Lundgren playing the Punisher. I mean,
yeah. And one other thing I forgot to mention about that scene, when the mobster and when the Punisher are like wrestling over the gun, they both like hit the kid in the face once each and like shove him onto the ground.
but just like anytime the movie tried to be serious, it was just so histrionic and so just so stupid. It's the funniest movie we've done on this podcast since The Happening.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to see it to know how,
Definitely.
to know how dumb and bad it is. Like, oh, fuck it. It's my favorite Marvel movie. Okay. But that was actually not the first one of these that I saw. The first one of these I saw was actually the 2004 one. And I remember not being that impressed with it when I first saw it. And rewatching it, it just felt like a generic revenge movie.
Yeah, for me, the 2004 was definitely the least enjoyable. It went on for a bit too long. There wasn't anything super memorable about it.
It wasn't poorly made, but it just didn't get entertaining until the last third of the movie, and also that dumb fight scene with the Russian Waldo or whatever. Like, what was that? So unbelievably, that ended up being my least favorite of the three, which is not a popular opinion. Because, I mean, you look at, like, the reviews and stuff, like, this one apparently is the best regarded of the three movies, but I guess I have different expectations than some people. It just felt like, I mean, I could have just been watching a Death Wish movie. I mean, I'd rather just watch a Death Wish movie.
Yeah.
Like, it was okay, but I can't really see myself watching it many times over. Like, Thomas Jane was good, but I don't know. And I guess it's kind of fun seeing John Travolta as a villain again, but again, I could just watch Broken Arrow or Face Off for that.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything else to add with 2004?
No, it's by far the least enjoyable.
Okay, so Warzone, this is the only one of these I had not seen. I was really curious about this one, because I'd actually heard this had the best depiction of the Punisher in the movies. Like, I heard Ray Stevenson was really good, but that the movie around him wasn't that great. Now, Warzone is all over the place in quality. It has a really good Punisher, terrible villains, although to be fair, terrible in a so bad it's good way. An almost non-existent plot. Good action scenes, lots of blood and guts. Like, it's the most comic booky of the three movies. I think I would have liked it a little bit more, though, if the tone was more consistent, and we'll get into that in the next category.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy it more than the 2004 one, believe it or not. Because there's parts of Warzone that are actually really good. Mainly the stuff with Ray Stevenson and, like, he's, like, grappling with the fact that he killed an innocent man, you know, and but then there's also parts that fall into the funny bad category. So in a weird way, I think this one was the most enjoyable for me.
So Warzone for me.
And also, I think of the three, Ray Stevenson's my favorite Punisher of these three actors. So there's that.
So I watched Warzone basically right after I had watched the 2004 Punisher.
Oh, that must have been a trip.
I did actually take like a 2-hour long break in between watching these, though I didn't do it right back to back.
That's good.
One of the biggest problems that I had had with the 04 movie was that it was way too long and just a bit slow. This one definitely moved faster, so I did enjoy watching this one more than watching the 04. Plus, a lot of the action scenes and a lot of, the punishments were really fun in this movie. But I think by the time I had watched this one, I was kind of Punishered out.
I kind of was too, actually, yeah.
And so I think thinking back on it, I think the 89 one was the most enjoyable one for me.
Oh, wow. I mean, if I was gonna watch one of these again, and it won't be for a while, I would probably put on Warzone. Just because, I mean, again, it has a lot of so bad it's good moments, but then also some good moments. So it's kind of a mixed bag. But in a weird way, that makes it more enjoyable for me than the 2004 one and the 89 one. The 89 one, though, I think would make a great drinking game.
Yeah, no, I've been thinking about trying to get some other people to watch the 89 one with me. Just because of just how funny bad the movie is.
The 89 one was the one that was, like, the most fun. So, yeah. I can kind of see why. I can see why you would, but I don't know what to do here, because I picked Warzone was the one I enjoyed the most, I think. Although, again, it's like I enjoyed them for slightly different reasons. Like, Punisher, like, the 89 Punisher one was consistently terrible, but Warzone was like, parts of it are terrible and parts of it are good, so...
Yeah.
And then the 2004 one was just kind of a flat line of mediocrity.
Yeah.
Can we agree on that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know what...
We could split the vote between the 89 and Warzone, like have 1.5 point for the 89 and then 8.5 for Warzone.
I was considering giving this category to the 89 one just because it's not winning much, but... I think part of why I enjoyed Warzone too is also I didn't know quite what to expect from it. Like, I'd really only seen like a trailer of it before this, and I hadn't actually watched the whole thing, so yeah, that was... I think the way I'd put it is, if I was going to get one of these movies on Blu-ray, I'd get Warzone on Blu-ray. So, tone. The 1989 one, like I mentioned before, is unintentionally hilarious.
Yeah, it's trying to be serious, but it in no way feels serious.
It just, every time they tried to be really dramatic, it just came across as so dumb. And then there's parts of it where it tries to be funny, which just makes it seem cheesy. And the Punisher is supposed to be this dark and serious character, and he just comes across like another 80s action hero. Like,
yeah.
You could honestly just put Arnold in this movie, and it wouldn't be that much more ridiculous. Like, it's just... Oh my god. If the 89 one was a comedy, though, it would be very successful at that. Like,
it would.
Hot Shots Part 2. If Hot Shots Part 2 had just taken the script of the 89 one and used that, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference that much.
The 2004 one tries to be serious, and it mostly maintains that.
It has the most consistent tone of the three.
They do have these three sort of comic relief characters where some of the levity is supposed to come from.
But it doesn't work.
Yeah.
The humor doesn't work. There's just not a lot of humor. It also felt really emotionally distant.
Yeah.
I didn't really care about what happened in it. And it also didn't feel like a comic book movie. It felt like just any vigilante movie. Like Death Wish. I keep mentioning Death Wish, but like also Taken, like, you know, or like it's as bland as like something like The Equalizer or something like that. It just, the movie, I just watched it, it just kind of sat there, and it never fully came alive for me. Like there weren't enough eccentricities to set it apart, like aside from, I guess, the Russian fight scene.
Yeah.
It's like the people that made it thought they were making something important or something. Like, it's not incompetently made. It just does the bare minimum, which is very boring.
Yeah.
And then finally, it does pick up at the end, but by that time, its moments have passed. So
yeah. And then Warzone's tone is all over the place.
It has a very weird tone, because parts of it are funny bad, and then parts of it are like super serious and dark. Like,
yeah,
I couldn't tell at points if it was trying to be silly or not. Like, there's this part where Looney Bin Jim is visited by Jigsaw, and then somebody gets their kidney torn out and eaten. Like, what was that? Anytime the villains showed up, I could not take this movie seriously.
No, it was so goofy whenever they were on screen together.
It felt sort of like if Zack Snyder made a Punisher movie. To be fair, Zack Snyder would be better suited to make a Punisher movie than what he's actually done.
Yeah.
Or no, wait. If Zack Snyder had made this, it would have been a lot more pretentious.
You're right. It would have been a Christ allegory.
And, yes. God is telling me to kill these people. I must become a martyr to the citizens, or something. But to be fair, this one feels the most comic booky of the movies.
Yeah.
But it also wants to be dark and depressing. Like, it wants to have its cake and eat it too. But at the same time, of the three, it was the most emotionally involving for me. Because of the scenes with Frank and the family. You know, I actually felt bad for Frank in this one.
Yeah.
So there's that, but I don't know. This is a hard one.
This is hard, because if we're going for most, like, tonally consistent,
the 2004 one wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I guess the 1989 one. Like, it's, I mean, yeah, it is consistent, but it's consistently terrible.
Yeah. This is a hard category.
Warzone is, like, just all over the place. It doesn't feel balanced. And then the 2004 one, like, just because of how mediocre it is and, like, how serious they're taking it, is the most consistent. So, yeah, it's just, like...
I guess it would have to go to the 04 one, then.
I guess, yeah.
Finally getting another point.
Okay, so here is one category that I don't know where this is gonna go, actually. So, accuracy to the comics. You said you had a friend who is super into comic books.
And, yeah, and I'm going to preface this by saying he doesn't like The Punisher very much, which is why he hadn't actually gone and watched any of these movies before.
Okay.
But from what he's told me is essentially the Punisher character himself. His whole thing is this brutal style of, vigilantism, where he really is just sort of this psychopathic character.
Okay.
That murders all of these criminals in pretty brutal ways. And I feel like all three of these movies get that pretty right. I'd say definitely Warzone feels, like the most humanized version of the character. The 89 one is definitely a psychopath.
The 2004 one tries to humanize him as well.
Mm.
Not as successfully, in my opinion, but I mean, he feels the most like a real person in the 2004 one.
But all that being said, if we're looking at the movie as a whole and seeing how accurate they are to the comic books, then what I would say is Punisher Warzone is the most accurate. It has the most sort of characters from the Punisher series, especially the Rogues Gallery. Because the 89 movie, it's all original characters except for the Punisher.
And also the Punisher in the 89 one doesn't have the skull logo.
Yeah. 2004, he's got the skull logo, and there's I think 1 or 2 characters that are from the comics, but really nobody else. And then Warzone is almost all characters from the comics.
But yeah, one thing that's interesting though, the 89 one is Stan Lee was a consultant on it.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh, okay, wait, does that make that one the most accurate since that's the only one that Stan Lee had input on? Because he's in the credits of the 89 one.
Mm.
The opening credits, I noticed
that.
But I don't know much about the Punisher. I know the basics. One thing I found interesting, though, I was reading on Wikipedia, apparently he started off as a Spider-Man villain.
Yeah, that's pretty... I read that, too. That's pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah. Huh. I don't know how different he was when he was in Spider-Man than he is in some of that. But yeah. I mean, I think we can agree, though, the 89 one is the least accurate. I mean, that one is... Just based on what little I know, I already knew going in that the 89 one wasn't accurate at all.
Yeah.
But the 2004 one, what about the 2004 one?
So the 2004 one, from what I've seen, it looks like tonally it's more accurate to the comics. Maybe if they had stepped up the violence a little bit more, had some more sort of over-the-top kills, then it would have been very accurate. So it does look like it leans more towards Warzone as being the most accurate.
That's kind of what I was I was reading a bit of stuff, and it kind of seemed like that. From what I could tell. And it also helps that Warzone feels the most like a comic book.
Yeah.
Of these, the other two just kind of feel like typical action movies. Just in the way they were shot and written and stuff. So yeah, I mean... So, I guess Warzone wins, but I don't actually know that for sure. So, oh man. And your friend doesn't even like the Punisher, apparently. So he might not even be a trustworthy source. Did you just quiz him saying does the Punisher ever punch a dude in the face and then explode?
I basically just I asked him for sort of the basics of the character. So, a lot of the backstory and a lot of just how he acts and how he's portrayed across comics.
It would have been funny if you had him watch these movies and we had him as a guest on the podcast. I'm sure he would have loved that. Okay, so this is the most interesting category, maybe. Wait, did we give points to... Yeah, you give points to Warzone, right? Which I guess means Warzone wins, unless...
Yep, with a score of 9.5.
I don't think it's gonna be close at all. So, similarity to the LJN game.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so I've technically never played this, but...
Neither have I.
There was a crossover video between AVGN and Pat the NES Punk where they played this and Bio Billy. And yeah, so this was an NES game released by LJN in 1990. That's unbelievable, that they would... Was it supposed to be I don't know if it was supposed to be a tie-in with the 89 movie or not, but whatever.
The timing's pretty close, so I would assume so. But
okay, so this category might have been a mistake because this game There's not a lot to go off of because it's just a basic like rail shooter.
Yeah.
You just shoot bad guys and that's the objective. So whichever of the movies only focuses on that, and I guess has bad guys that look like the ones in the game.
I will say, Jigsaw shows up as a boss in the LJN game.
Oh, we might have our answer now. Okay, we got so that means Warzone gets some points then in that case. And also the Punisher looks more like the one in he's got the skull logo, so it's like in the 2004 one in Warzone. Yeah. On the cover he definitely looks more his face looks kind of like Thomas Jane actually.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it. The thing is, he has a costume in the game. He doesn't really have that costume in the movies, so I guess. And he has a machine gun. Which one uses a machine gun the most? I guess Warzone.
Yeah. It's not like this point's really gonna change the outcome.
I just think it's kind of fun to see which one is. Okay, he has the skull logo, so again, the 89 one is not doing well here. Okay, he shoots a bunch of guys in green outfits and guys in blue outfits, so which one has a bunch of guys with green and blue outfits of the movies?
Not sure.
Probably not the... Nah, not the 89 one.
No. I guess probably the 04 one.
I guess, yeah. He's using a machine gun. Yeah, he uses a rocket launcher in the game. Does he use a rocket launcher in any of the movies?
I don't think so.
Okay, never mind. He gets tips from newspapers. Does he do that in any of the movies?
I mean, he spies on the one dudes in the 04 film, if that counts.
I don't know if that counts or not. The music during the levels is a guy playing the saxophone. Okay, that's another thing. Which one has the most saxophones on the soundtrack? Definitely not Warzone.
No.
I'm trying to remember. Does the 89 one have saxophones on the soundtrack?
I know they had some synth noises.
Because I know a lot of 80s movies use saxophones on the soundtrack. I can't even remember the music from 2004 one. Okay, whatever. Okay, the settings. So the settings in the game include cities, docks, and sewers. Okay, sewers, the 89 one definitely has sewers in it.
Yeah, and it also had a dock at one point.
All of them have docks in them. Well,
That's
okay,
fair.
The 2004 one has docks in it. I know that because of that one scene. And all of them have cities. I'm not sure which city is in the game, but it's definitely not the same one in the 89 one, because I don't know if you knew this. The 89 one was shot in Australia.
I did know that, yeah.
You did? Okay, it was filmed in Sydney, apparently. It's an American movie, but it was filmed in Australia for some reason. And it was a production company by two Israeli dudes. Okay, so... I don't know. Are we gonna give it to Warzone just because Jigsaw is in it?
I think so. And because he has a machine gun on the cover.
Okay. Although, I mean, the only objective of the game is shooting people, and that's the only thing Dolph Lundgren really does in the 89 one.
To be fair, that's what they all do.
I mean, the one that feels the most like a video game, honestly, is the 89 one.
Yeah.
Okay, so... Yeah, it's a washout. Warzone wins, and I kind of was expecting that going back over these categories again.
I was not expecting the 89 one to be at the very bottom of this. Like, I wasn't expecting it to score this low.
I was, because I was like going through the categories and going, the 89 one fails at like all of these categories. All of them, like everything. It's like such an ineptly made movie. And yet it's the one you enjoyed the most of the three.
Yes.
I think that just because it's funny bad, not because it's actually good. Okay, that was interesting and also very long.
Yeah.
Very, very long.
2 hours and 40 minutes talking about 3 Punisher movies. So what's the moral of the story here? What did we learn from all of this?
Don't become the Punisher.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think the moral is the Punisher lost his kids. Batman lost his parents. So the logical conclusion here, the Punisher should adopt Batman. I'm putting that picture in the video. Okay. Oh my goodness.
It sounds like it's time for Andy Griffith.
Were you really that surprised that the 89 one did this badly? I mean, come on. Actually look at that movie objectively.
Yeah, no, it's pretty bad.
Okay, are we gonna stop recording now?
Yeah.
Good night, you stupid idiot. Good night, you miserable slob.